everybody, this is Jenny Marks. I am the Westby FCCLA advisor, and I am here today to present to you a little bit about the virtual chapter toolkit that came to all of us as advisors just a few weeks ago, actually, from National FCCLA. They decided to put together a document for this COVID issue that we're all dealing with in order to host and hold chapter activities and meetings. I know right now it is difficult because there are some of us that have chapters that are face-to-face. Some of us are in a face-to-face / hybrid type situation, and some of us are completely 100% virtual. And as time progresses and moves forward, we always have that impending fear of us possibly going 100% virtual, which as educators we all agree and know that that is not the ideal way to teach and educate children and students, but it is, in order to keep us safe, then that might actually be a priority. So because of that, they created this toolkit to kind of help you go through your chapter planning and management for this year in this very unique situation, which I know that it's all kind of doom and gloom, but actually there have been some really awesome things that have come out of the whole pandemic, and it's made us kind of look at the things that are super important to us and what we really need to focus on and care about. I'm doing this session, and I'm also going to be putting together another session that talks a little bit about chapter management and how I promote our chapter and what we do with our membership. Currently, at Westby High School, our high school has about 400 students in it, and our middle school has, I would say, probably about 350, 400 as well. Our middle school is 5'8", but I teach just a 7th grade exploratory, and then they do some little independent work times with me as 8th graders, and then in high school, I'm a 9-12 high school. And my high school, I'm a single person department, so I am a very basic, I shouldn't say basic department, I'm a very independent, I guess, department. I teach by myself, so I end up doing all the foods and child development and everything, so every day is a new day in Westby. But we started off face-to-face, and then we migrated to a hybrid schedule after we had a couple of students test positive. And since then, everything has been going really, really well. So our alphabet is split in half, and half of the kiddos come on Monday and Tuesday, the other half come Thursday, Friday. Wednesdays are a full virtual day for us at the high school. And so people think that, ooh, you get Wednesdays as the day to just kind of work on things. My Wednesdays actually are way more busy than my weeks that I have days that I have actual students there. So it's a lot of planning and organizing, but we do it because we have to do it, and it's good for the kids to keep on top of things. So with that being said, our chapter meetings have been face-to-face, but we also have, between the middle school and the high school chapters, I have 2 separate chapters. We do a lot of activities together. And I'll be really honest, the only reason why I split them into 2 chapters is because of STAR events, and it allows students to have more opportunities in different categories for STAR events than anything else. Otherwise, we do all of our meetings together, activities together, trips together, everything's together, other than the fact that they're 2 separate chapters, which most members don't even know that. But between the 2 right now, I have about 54, 55 members in the chapter, and every day it seems to grow more and more and more. Between this session and the other one that I'm going to show you a few things in, we're going to talk a little bit about how we kind of do things on the virtual side. And sometimes people think that just because we're doing the virtual stuff means that we really can't do anything other than have a meeting. Actually, there's lots of things that you can do. You just have to be super creative with it and just know your limitations. Our kids are phenomenal with wearing masks. Actually, we have more issues with the adults wearing masks than we do the kids wearing masks. Kids want to be in school in the worst way, and they want to do stuff. They are just craving to do things and be active again, which is kind of a different turnaround, because for a while it was like they were burnt out, and they've kind of gotten a little bit of rejuvenation, and I think they're going to burn their advisor out before they get burnt out. But we just do what we have to do. But we had, like I said, we had our first meeting face to face. I had so many students that we ended up having to move to the high school cafeteria because of space. And so since then, we have decided as an officer team to go to a full virtual meeting format, which that's kind of where you need to start, is you need to start kind of where you're at with the virtual side of things. Kids love it. I actually get more participation in having virtual meetings than having face-to-face. More kids are actively engaged in the meeting. They know what's going on. And so it's actually a really nice thing. And I'm thinking that even if we go back to some sort of a normal, I'm going to stick with the virtual meetings just because I feel like we can accomplish more in a shorter time. So when you establish a virtual meeting, you have to figure out what format works best for the students. We are a one-to-one Google school, and so our platform is Google, and so everything is Google. Anything else that the students choose to use, we have to get special permission to use. There are some things out there for recording things that work really well, like Screencast-O-Matic is really good. If you do the free version of that, you do only get like a 10-minute recording time. So I went out and actually purchased I think it's like $20 a year to do unlimited recordings, and you can like edit a video, you can modify things. So Screencast-O-Matic is really good. Loom is okay. It works sometimes really well, and then sometimes not so much. But the best thing that I've learned with the students, especially when it talks about down here, like what if my students can't be virtual? If they can't, like at that time because they've got something else going on or something is happening in their lives, I record all the meetings and I just do a Google Meet through our classroom platform, and then I just record the meeting, and then I post the meeting afterwards, and so it works pretty slick. Now, I do have some kids that have very limited internet access at home, and for those students, I actually print off, our agenda is in a slideshow format, and so I just print it off as like 6 slides on one page after we have had the meeting, along with any notes that were taken, because we do put a notes section in the slideshow. We fill that in. That's where my vice president actually takes minutes for our meetings. And so then everything is documented, and kids that can't participate in the meeting can go back and they can watch the video and see kind of what they have missed, and they can check in with me or any of my officers at any time as to kind of what's going on. So I do establish some rules when it comes to the virtual meetings. Like, even if they can't be there quite on time, when they do come into the meeting, they need to mute their mic right away. I do actually ask that they stay like physically in the screen during the meeting, and if they need to step away, then they can flip it to their little icon or their little picture. But otherwise, when they're in the meeting, they need to be like in the meeting. Like, we need to physically see them and have them actively engaged in that time period. No one can be disrespectful. Everybody has to be very respectful of everybody else's ideas. I encourage discussion during the meeting as well. I don't actually require any of the students to like worry about clothing or excuse me, their backgrounds or anything like that, unless it's really, really inappropriate. I've never experienced that, but I know that I have had some colleagues that have experienced it, and it puts you in a really awkward position. Now, the nice thing about a Google Meet is that if something like that seems to creep up or conversation is not going well, you can mute the student and you can also remove them from the meeting, which is really, really nice. So you have to pick kind of the platform and set the expectations that you have for the meeting. My expectation that I usually have is when we are having our meeting, my chapter president is usually in my classroom with me. She's usually like sitting right kind of close to me next to my desk. And so that we can kind of talk back and forth as the meeting's going on, and I can kind of help her with things that might not be so easy if we were fully virtual. But that's what works for us, but not everybody has that opportunity. So what I would encourage you to do is actually establish an officer meeting either the day before or a couple of days before the actual chapter meeting, so that you can go through the agenda, add anything that you may have forgotten, because I do all the time. And the kids will remind me of stuff. They'll be like, Mrs. Marks, what about blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah. So they, a lot of times, will add to the agenda themselves. I share out the slideshow about a week before with some of my thoughts. They add to it, and then we have usually an officer meeting. Now, this next section of the book here talks about conducting chapter meetings. Have the officers run the meeting. You as an advisor are just an advisor. You're advising them on things. Have your president run the meeting. Have the kids run it. Have them discuss things that are going on. You can always supplement in and talk about things or answer any questions that the officers can't handle, but give them the responsibility. That's why they're officers. They want that responsibility. Take some of that pressure off of you as an advisor. You have enough stuff going on. The only thing that I kind of control in the meetings is that whenever they do have a meeting, like a chapter meeting, officer, or committee meetings, I require myself to be there. Just because I want to make sure that I'm listening to what's going on, the conversation, I can moderate that. So that is one expectation that I do not allow my students to do, is to have side meetings without me present. And if they do, their information, their opinion of, or things that are decided in their own private meetings are not even brought. They can bring them to the table, but they're usually not accepted. Just because it can get to be a really sticky, dangerous situation real fast. So please be mindful of that and lay it out. Some of you are going to have excellent leaders that want to kind of take the bull by the horns and do a lot of that stuff themselves, and that gets real touchy. So make sure that you are involved in all of that, along with if you have a chapter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, any social media account, you need to be a part of that. Actually, it would be smart of you to create it yourself, and then give like on Facebook, you can give certain people certain like controlling or editing rights to your Facebook page. I create it. I have the password that opens it up, but I give kids the control of that, so then they can kind of, add announcements or add posts or whatever to it, but I still have the overall control over that in removing any posts that might be out there. And so I would do that. Our Westby chapter actually has 2 Twitter accounts, because at some point in my teaching career, someone created a Twitter account and we have no idea who it was or what the password is or anything. And so now we have this like random Twitter account that has nothing posted to it ever, because no one knows anything about it, other than the fact that when kids search for Westby FCCLA on Twitter, they will get 2 accounts that'll show up. So it is better for you as an advisor to create a lot of that stuff yourself. Now, obviously, recruiting members, this year we have more members than we've had in years. And I think a lot of it has to do is that many of them have been sitting at home doing nothing for the last however many months, and they want to try to get involved. And we're trying to do as many things virtual or as safe as we possibly can, so that kids feel extremely comfortable in the environment. Now, there are things obviously here. I promote the Go for the Red so that my members that bring in members get recognized. We also have, and I'll show you down here a little bit, there is this thing called a point system. I also have a point system set up that if they get so many points, they get certain awards at our banquet and awards throughout the year. It also helps me give out awards at the banquet, because I can see how many people are in certain categories for certain things. I give out a freshman of the year, a sophomore of the year, a junior of the year award. I don't do seniors because I recognize all the seniors for their years of dedication. but it helps me pick that top person. If two kids have been pretty active, we keep a running tally, and that'll be in my other presentation. We keep a running tally of points, and sometimes it comes down to like 2-point difference. But that makes kids excited about doing things, and so it would be wise of you possibly to set up a point system. Also in Westby, our FCCLA chapter, if they receive so many points, actually letter in it. So they're a part of like our W Club, which is what people think is mostly athletic. We also have an academic side of it. So they can letter in band, they can letter in National Honor Society, Honor Roll, FCCLA, and there's one more that I'm forgetting offhand. But it allows them to potentially run for like homecoming court for homecoming, get them recognized a little bit more, and it's pretty cool because it makes us feel very much a part of our high school and involved in the activities. Our chapter is an extracurricular. It's on the books, and so we have to follow and abide by all of the school rules, like any athlete would have to or anybody else. Now, in here, too, like when I was talking about activities for kids to do, we will do clothing. Actually, the orders will go out this next week, the order forms. We are completely paperless. So because of that, everything is in Google Forms. Everything's on the Google Classroom. So I don't really deal with paper anymore, which actually makes my life so much easier. So maybe that was a good thing, too, that came out of COVID. But we do a lot with social media. We post every Monday, Member Monday it's called, and we recognize, eventually by the end of the year, we'll recognize all of our members at some point. We do a Flashback Friday, or a Fantastic Friday it's called, so if we don't have any like old stuff we want to bring back, we do recognize like kids that have done really good things that week in the school or in our chapter. We also have a member of the month that we post. We have, officer spotlights. I mean, I have a fantastic public relations officer right now that is way on top of this. Virtual fundraisers, it gives you some ideas there. We are actually making face masks in the next couple of weeks and donating them to the elementary schools because they're a little short-handed. But you could very easily do a virtual fundraiser of some sort. You just have to kind of set up the spreadsheets, which most fundraising companies today have all of that stuff established, so it shouldn't be too bad. Section 2 goes into actually integrating it into the classroom. And people always ask me, they're like, Jenny, how do you get so many members involved in FCCLA? Honestly, I do nothing. I don't really do membership drives. My membership drive is one-on-one conversation with students. I promote it in my middle school chapters, and so I get them kind of snagged in middle school, and then they usually stick with me throughout. If I don't get them in middle school when they're a freshman or a sophomore, I'll personally talk to them. Our school is small enough that I can do that. I know every kid in the building because I've had them in middle school, and if I didn't, I get to know them. And I really try to make them feel super, super special and make them feel like they're joining like the greatest thing on earth. It takes a lot, but it works, and I get some of the greatest kids I could ever imagine to work with by doing that. Excuse me. I do know that there are some kids that are just not interested, and so I put the bug in their ear, but if I don't keep harassing them either. Usually it's like once, maybe twice, but after that, if I don't get any interest out of them for the year, I just drop it. Because I don't want to set up that kind of like, oh, here she comes again, she's going to be asking about FCCLA. I don't want to set that dynamic up with my students. And so I want to make it fun for the kids that are involved, to make sure, or to hopefully motivate those that are not jumping in 100% to actually do it down the road. But another piece, and this is a part that I have been working on for like 10 years, is to actually incorporate some of the national programs into my actual classroom and into my curriculum. And if you go on to the FCCLA national website in the portal, there are hundreds of lesson plans that advisors have put out there for different things. Take a peek at that. There is the Facebook pages. There's all sorts of stuff that is available for you to find lesson planning ideas. But this actually, the next few pages, takes you through all of the national programs and different lessons that you could incorporate virtually with your students. I haven't done this quite yet because my intro class in high school is not until second semester. And usually in that class, I do a lot of work with Power of One. By the time it's done, all of the kids that take my Intro to Facts class actually have received their Power of One certificates. Even if they're not members, I will make a certificate. It's the same one that Nationals provides, and I put their names in it, and I give it to them. And sometimes it shows up at their graduation down the road, and I was like, oh, cool, you were never a member, but obviously that meant something to you. Or their mom needed filler for their display board. I don't know. But it's just kind of cool that FCCLA kind of sticks with these kids, and they like it. The kids that I have go through the Power of One, lots of times, I wish in our district I'd have that class first semester with the freshmen, because then I could nab them then and get them in. But just the way the schedule works, it's usually second semester, and so I wait and I really promote it in that class, and then once I get them as sophomores usually in like a foods-based class, I usually can get them involved at that point. I want to highlight this one real quick. This is called Stand Up. Stand Up is actually replacing Stop the Violence this year. And if you affiliate by November 1st, you will get access to all of the Stand Up curriculum materials, which is a huge, huge resource. And it's free. It's not charged to your chapter at all. And so I would encourage you to take a peek at the stand-up materials once they come into our inboxes. And actually, I think I might already have access to that, but we'll see. This is student body, and then obviously competitive events. We still really don't know all the details to competitive events this year. I know that Mrs. Ryberg and the Star Event team have been talking extensively about regionals being completely virtual this year. We'll know final details on that in the next couple of weeks. But we are hoping that state could potentially be some face-to-face time, but we'll see what happens and kind of where we're at with COVID and what's happening in the world. But the competitive events guide is out. It's in the portal. So you should encourage your students, like I've already downloaded it and stuff, and I've sent it to my membership through the classroom. And so I have kids that are already working on star events. They're already picking projects. Actually, I have a young lady on Monday already going out to do her teach and train activities in her lessons. And so I was like, holy cats, okay, that's the earliest I've ever had a child do a star event, which is great, because then it gives her more time to prep and get ready for it. And obviously nationals, we have no clue about nationals yet as to what their plan is. But I'm sure as time goes, we will hear more and more about that. But no, you will notice in the Star Event Guide, the Competitive Events Guide this year, that there are actually two options. There is a virtual option and the criteria for that, and then there is the face-to-face criteria as well. So make sure that you take notice to that. There is a quiz here that members can take to find out what kind of star event they might be interested in. The third section talks about virtual options that you have. Some advisors have created a virtual classroom for their students, and it has all of their FCCLA materials in this classroom. It makes it fun and kind of, you do have to kind of create Bitmojis for that. I have set one up, but it's very boring, to say the least. And they do actually give you a template and then a tutorial on that. And if you have any questions about setting up a virtual classroom, I'm happy to tell you how to do it, because it's actually fairly easy, just a little time consuming. Not that we have all the time in the world to do anything. But it is fun for kids to get this and to see it and some of the options. And it's all like linked, like here's a flag of Japan. And I bet you if I click on it when I'm not in this mode, it would probably take me to the Japanese exchange program on the national website. So it's kind of a unique way to present materials to students. So if you're into that, you can definitely set that up. We're a Google-based classroom, so I put everything in the classroom, and kids love that. I have thought about creating something like this and putting it at the top of my classroom with all of the materials to be a little bit more creative, but we'll see. Hyperdocs are cool, that you can put all the links in the document, and then kids can click on it and it'll send them to those areas as well. This here talks a little bit about virtual classroom lesson plans with the power of one. I do teach with Team Times a lot, especially with my middle school. I'll copy articles out of there and then hand those out to our students, and we'll have some good discussion in that department. So that's definitely an option. Here it talks a little bit about some virtual fundraisers that you could potentially do. And it's kind of up to you and your area and what you're capable of having. Our middle school music program is selling wreaths, like Christmas wreaths and garland this year. And normally in the past, it's always been just on the sheet of paper that you sign up for it. But this year, it's all a part of a Google form that they sent out to everybody and to the students themselves. And then the students could send the links of the form to family members and whomever that they would like to potentially get somebody to order from. So there are workaround ways to get through some things. You just have to be creative with it. I already talked a little bit about the whole social media posts. We focus most of our social media, and you should pick like one or two that you're interested in. We at Westby focus on Facebook and Instagram. Those are our two big ones. Facebook typically, yes, for members because they still use it, but it's a lot for the parents more or less. And then Instagram is typically for the kids. We actually have our Facebook and our Instagram accounts linked. So because of that, we post on one and it posts on both. And I have been using a platform called Hootsuite to do multiple posts. I can program stuff in there for like 3 months ahead of time, and then it'll push it out when that date comes. So when I, have nothing to do on a Sunday afternoon, I could, sit and watch the Packer game while it's snowing outside or something random, and I could upload all of these posts. And that's how we keep up with like our Member Mondays and our Fantastic Fridays and all of that, so that it's not something every single week. We just load it into the platform when we have time, and then it pushes it out for us. But Hootsuite is a great resource. There is a free version of it, and then there is obviously versions that you can be charged for as well. Okay. Section 4 talks about advisor resources, some of the resources that are out there, and then obviously benefits. Resources are huge. The lesson plans are great. Membership kits are available as well. We just got those, and I'm actually taping from home today, and my membership kit is at school, so I apologize, but those just came within the last week or two. If you would like one or an extra one, you should get a hold of Diane Ryberg, the state FCCLA advisor and DPI consultant, to get yourself an extra copy, or a copy maybe for a new advisor in your area that could be sent to them. It's full of posters and different resources of things that are coming up, and so it's a really nice, handy-dandy little packet. Obviously, chapter events guide or chapter competitive events guide is in the portal. There is a chapter manual that's also on the national website. But there's lots of things that you can look at, and there's always something for somebody to get involved in. There's money connected to some of these things, getting partnerships with different organizations. So you have to kind of figure out what fits you best. We actually decided as a chapter to, instead of constantly asking and people constantly buying like pizzas and I don't even know, pretzels. We've sold pretzels and purses and you name it, we've tried it. We actually this year, the officer team decided to actually ask the families if they want to kind of make like a donation towards our chapter. And we have also asked businesses to sponsor our chapter. And then they'll be put on our chapter websites and our social media as sponsors. and it ranges from $50 to whatever they would like. A lot of businesses in our area, which I was concerned with COVID that they wouldn't be able to donate a lot of our local businesses have been donating like $250, $300, $500. And just that little bit really helps. It helps offset the cost of membership, buying some prizes for kids at meetings. I feed kids when we're face-to-face. I usually provide some kind of supper for them because we meet right after their sports practice. So there are a lot of ideas that they can do that way for fundraisers. Community service stuff doesn't always have to be done in like a nursing home or a Salvation Army or something. Community service can be done right in their own homes. It might be simply as unloading the dishwasher, which might be a normal chore for a kid, but if it's not and they just volunteer to do it, that could be considered a community service type thing. Maybe they choose to rake their lawn, watch their siblings while mom runs to the grocery store or has a day at like the spa. Yeah, okay. That's kind of fun. I'd like to do that too. But anyway, some of that stuff can be done at home. And if you want, when kids are doing things on their own, community service-wise, have them take pictures of themselves. Have them send you the pictures or post them to the classroom or whatever your platform is, like Canvas or whatever. And share those pictures then on social media. Post them on your school websites. Right now, like our school website and our school social media is like dead. Like there's nothing going on. And mainly because people think there isn't. But there's a lot of really good things that are happening. Like we're doing a warm and fuzzy drive now. We're starting that next week. And we're making masks for the elementary. And we're doing stuff now for homecoming. And so there's lots of things. And you have to give kids variety so that they can choose what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So anyway, I gave you a lot of information in like a half hour, which I should have been like 15 minutes shorter, so I apologize. But that's the, excuse me, the virtual manual for Toolkit. And like I said, there's lots of examples of things in there. If you need a copy of it, you can very easily find it on the national website. Or you can ask me and I can just shoot me an email and I can definitely email it to you as well. My email is Jennie, Jennie, .marks, M-A-R-X, at, the @ sign, Westby, W-E-S-T, B as in boy, Y, dash, Norse, Norse.org. Please, please feel free to always email me any questions that you have or anything that you'd maybe like to run by me or just chat too. That would be just fine because it is nice to talk to somebody else that understands what grocery shopping at 9 o'clock at night feels like. Not even for your own family. So otherwise, I hope you all have a great, great school year. Make the best of what you can. Just do the best job that you can in this situation and in this troubling time. And just know that we are all in this together. Thank you, everybody, and have a great FCCLA year.